Hey, welcome to the Visionista Podcast. I'm your host, 𝐏𝐮𝐭 𝐒𝐨𝐻 of 𝐏 Marketing and PR. This podcast is for entrepreneurs where we talk about business and work-life balance. Hi, I'm 𝐏𝐿𝐭 𝐒𝐨𝐻 with 𝐏 Marketing and PR, the Visionista, and I am here with my good friend Melanie Red of Melanie Red Performance Training.
Oh, hi. I'm here.
And we are just a couple of girls who own businesses. And today, I'd really like to talk about some of the obstacles that we both face in male-dominated industries. You tell everybody a little bit about what you do.
So I first started out just as a personal trainer in general fitness, helping people get fit and lose weight. And a few years ago, I began to transition into the athletic space. And so now full-time, I am a strength and conditioning coach, mainly for high school athletes, working mostly with teams, but in some private and semi-private scenarios as well.
Mm-hmm. And you work a lot with football teams,
yes,
specifically.
So I started in football. Mm-hmm. Believe it or not. In the team atmosphere, I started in football and just kind of stumbled into the scenario that I'm still in right now. Came in as an assistant strength and conditioning coach for a local high school football team, 𝐏𝐮𝐭 𝐒𝐨𝐿𝐭, and am now head strength and conditioning coach for that football team and the wrestling team there as well. And then recently, about 4 months ago, I took on several other teams at the school, same school, in addition to all of that work.
Mm-hmm. And that's awesome. And, you're talking about football and you're talking about wrestling. Those are heavily male-dominated sports. Every once in a while, you hear of a female athlete who's on the wrestling team or who wants to be on football. But generally speaking, 97%, I'm just making that number up, I don't know, but it's 90-something% of people are male, and the coaches are male and the trainers are male. So, and that's specific to that industry, but there are many industries where there's still, the amount of female to male ratio is still very, very off. There's maybe 2 women for every 10 men in a boardroom or at a company. That has a certain set of challenges that go with it. How do you face those challenges? I know we've had discussions before where you have to work, 100 times harder, running backwards with your hair on fire for people to take you seriously. And you're not alone in that. Many women feel that in many different fields. What do you do to keep going and to prove yourself, I guess? Not that you need to prove yourself, but, to prove yourself to the men that you're working with, not only on the staff, but also parents, that I'm sure have opinions about what you do. Do you have any tips or tricks?
Well, first, let me start by saying that the men that I work for, I've never had to prove myself as a female.
That's awesome.
To them. Not once. And it's such a, this misconception that men in football are, crass and not inclusive of women. And, I am probably more crass than they are at times. And I've never had issues with there being me feeling like I'm not taken seriously as a female ever. So I want to make sure that is clear. And publicly, when I speak about the things that I've come up against with just being a female and being treated a little bit differently, it is never those gentlemen that I have in mind. And I always want to make sure that is very clear because it is a public persona. I am presenting like this public persona. Everybody knows who I am and what I do, and it's a high profile job, right? So that being said, never had any issues there, and I never do. My opinion is always, very, taken into account. And even if we don't completely agree on things, we have a discussion, not an argument. So and as far as that goes, that's like the dream work situation, to have a knowledge and to be respected as the person around who has the most knowledge on this topic, and to have your your opinion and your expertise to be valued in that way is a really beautiful thing. And, but, that being said, there are times where, especially when I first started out in football, because prior to that, my sports clients were like golfers and tennis players, soccer players. It wasn't like male dominated, brutal sports like football and wrestling. And, I think a little bit of people kind of looking at me sideways, like, you're doing what? Came from, the fact that I clearly have no experience as a football player or a wrestler, right? And I don't.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of it was people just seemingly or outright doubtful that that's something I could possibly do. And it ranged from friends and family to people that I didn't know all that well, just acquaintances, kind of making a face.
Yeah.
You do what?
The face.
And then some people would be very honest and just say, well, that's very unusual as a female. That's very unusual, which I appreciate, an honest response. I had people laugh at me and basically like nearly pat me on the head and say, oh, that's so cute. You think you can do that? That's a little annoying.
That must have been frustrating.
That's a little annoying. Yeah. But, really where it got very frustrating for me was the amount of women who had that response.
Huh. So you got more pushback from women than you did from men.
Yes.
I find that interesting.
I have not had a single man tell me I got a job because the people who hired me thought I was pretty. But I have had several females say that to me. And that is really where my skin starts to, like, I start to get a little, defensive and just be like, come on, are you kidding me? Like, that is not, it's not okay to say that.
No.
It's really not okay to think that. And, if you know me, you should know the way I enter a space is that my energy is very confident. I don't, even when I'm not all that confident, I know how to come off as, confident. And that has nothing to do with strength and conditioning. That just has everything to do with having been a professional in some capacity for the last 4 years of my life, right? And having to constantly fight for what's yours, for what you want to be yours. So that's, that's frustrating. It is funny. The parts of it that are funny to me is on, Friday nights and, you're under the lights and it's a big game and I'm standing on the sideline and invariably a kid from the other team who maybe is gotten like a little hurt in his warm up or is dealing with, an injury will come and ask me if I can tape his ankle. And I'm like, I'm not the athletic trainer. I'm the strength coach. The athletic trainer is, over there. Or a coach on the other team asking one of our coaches, why is your athletic trainer on the field? Like in the pregame, or why is she lining up, to shake hands? And they're like, that's not our athletic trainer. Our athletic trainers are females also, by the way, which is also a male dominated space, but more females in that space than what I do. And anyway, they'll be like, she's our strength coach. And they're like, what? and they'll always follow it up with, and she's great. Which
awesome.
Is awesome for me. Yeah, that's been a really, important part of my journey, and I embrace that. This whole thing is not possible alone. In my world, you do have to display on a regular basis what you know. And you have to be able to communicate it, and you have to be able to be effective in very short periods of time with sometimes less tools, than what you would really like. So to have, coaches putting respect behind my name is really that thing, that if I am having a bad day or if somebody's just been like blatantly disrespectful, those are the things that I remember because those are the people I work for and they're really the ones whose opinion matters the most.
Yeah, I think respect is important just across the board, especially for what you do, but for what other people do as well. If you're working in an office or you're working with vendors or contractors or employees and they don't respect what you're saying, they don't respect your time, it can be very frustrating and it can hold the project back. It can hold things back for the client. And it's just a frustrating place to be in when your expertise isn't being respected. I don't know the first thing about what you do. I have my own set of skills. So, I respect the hell out of you because you know what you're doing. And, people respect me because I know what I'm doing. So when I come across someone who doesn't, it's very frustrating. So, how do you move past that? If someone is not respecting you, some of the people that you mentioned that make, kind of backwards comments, make your life difficult when you were getting started and they were kind of patting you on the head and saying, oh, that's sweet. Well, that's never going to happen. A lot of people experience that in different ways from different people. Families are especially hard on you because I think it comes from a place of worry and fear instead of, oh, you can't do that. It's like, oh, God, what if, she can't pay her rent this month? Or I think it comes from more of a fear place than I don't think it's possible for her to do that. How do you move past situations like that?
What do you mean? Wait, which part? Move past
like
the lack of respect or
correct.
Like doubt that others may have or whatever. I don't even think about other people's doubts about me. I really don't. I don't give a shit. I really don't. It doesn't. I feel like I have a really thick skin, and so. And I developed that in advertising sales. I did not develop that in this business.
Yeah, so
I think
that was
served
learned.
me well. It's a learned behavior. It takes practice, just like anything else. So doubters really don't. That doesn't really factor into my daily. I think for me, we were talking about respect just now and overcoming a lack of disrespect, whether it's blatant or if it's just in the form of getting ghosted.
Yeah.
Which actually annoys me more than somebody just flat out saying, I don't think you're qualified to do this. What I don't like is being told, we think you're great. We think you're qualified.
We'll call you
We've
back.
got everything we need. Everything looks great. We're just going to cross our T's and dot our I's, and we'll be back to you next week. And then you hear nothing.
Nothing.
Right? And so that, to me, is more disrespectful than to just having an honest conversation. And I would rather have an honest conversation. I do try to keep in mind that people don't like awkwardness, and I don't care. I don't mind it. Like, awkward is whatever at this point in my world. So I do try to keep that in mind. And when I get the opportunity to hold someone's feet to the fire and say, remember, you said this and this. If this has changed, then you need to say, this has changed and why, and let's have a conversation about it, or let's just agree to go our separate ways. And that's kind of how I, do business. I probably break up with more potential clients than, than not. And because I will hit a point where I'm like, if me chasing you is making me angry, I'm done.
Yeah.
Because
Life
that's not
is
a good
too
way.
short to be
it's not a
upset
good
all
way
the
to
time.
start. It's not a good way to start a relationship, right? And then everything else is really like how I overcome, doubt and people, like whether it's parents or whoever. I mean, there's a lot of people in my day who I'm hoping are happy with my work.
Yeah.
Right. But at the end of the day, instead of arguing with somebody over why I'm right and they're wrong, I will just go into educator mode. And so if you look at my social media, it's all very much education based. I do very little hire me, buy my services, download my app. I do very little of that. It's all very educational, because one of the things that I learned 3 years ago, around this time of the year when I started working with my mentor, was to just educate people and to always step into every space like I am there, to be of service, and to check your ego at the door. And that's probably like one of the best pieces of advice I've ever gotten. And strength coaches have a ton of ego. It does not matter. I have just as much ego as a female in this business as any of these men do. But I'm aware of it. I think maybe more than other people. But, so I just go into educating mode. A lot of strength and conditioning coaches slam parents hard for their misconceived notions of what their kids should be doing or should not be doing. And this guy that they know works out a lot told them that their kid should be doing this. And so often, parents are getting wrong information, and parents are sold things a lot. They're sold things by coaches and other trainers and whatnot. So for me, it's just, I would rather just educate. And, at the end of that interaction or interactions, if you don't feel like you know something more, then you're either not capable of learning and we're done here, or I haven't done a good enough job educating you, or maybe I'm just not finished educating you yet, right?
Because there's many steps in what you do.
There's a lot, and it's very layered work. And there's, my approach is science-based. I always start with science, and it's always, on the continuum. But there's also an art to coaching, and an art to reaching people, and an art to getting people to do things that they really don't want to do. And that is, that constant flow, that back and forth of science and art, and that constant thing that is always there, and reading that and feeling that, right? It's very like intuition based. But then there are also things that I do. I just have to know them, or somebody could get hurt.
Yeah.
And so, protecting these people and these kids and making them better at the same time is always at the crux of what I'm doing. And so if I can reach that athlete, and if I can reach that parent, then that's always a beautiful thing. And then there's just always going to be people that you're just not going to be able to reach.
Yeah.
And I do think that there are instances when I'm not going to be able to reach certain people, dads, because I'm a female, and I'm just not going to, I'll be annoyed about it for a few minutes, but I'm not going to let that,
You've got other
ruin
things
my
to
day.
do.
Yeah, exactly.
So another thing I really wanted to talk about today, because you are a strength and conditioning coach, you make strong bodies, but you actually have really strong, and you mentioned it a little bit, strong self-confidence, strong mind and determination to get done what you're doing. I get a lot of questions from people who have hit a snag, other business owners. Maybe they've been doing it for a minute. Maybe they're just starting out now. There's a lot of up and down as you get your business going. And even when your business is established, anytime you do something new, there can be a period of adjustment. If you lose something, if you lose a big client, there can be a time of adjustment. How do you keep going? And I want to preface this by being real, people. I am in this space today. So speak to me, Melanie. Tell me. And I'd also can I share what you told me like last fall
For sure.
So I've known Melanie for several years, like
Yeah.
6 or 7 maybe. So we have a bit of a history together. And if Wonder Woman was an actual physical person, she and Melanie would be like interchangeable.
That's hilarious.
That's how I see you though. And maybe that's social media's doing. I don't know. But we were talking about some business related things last fall. So it was a few months ago. And you said something in an email about being very frustrated with some things going on in your business. And you flat out said, I'm thinking about just
Yeah.
and it was a good thing I was sitting because I would have fallen over because that never would have occurred to me that you would have been so frustrated that you would have stopped doing what you're doing because you've done it for so long. You are
And I love it.
synonymous with strength training and helping people move, helping people train for sports that they love. I couldn't envision you doing anything else, So how did you move past that? Speak to my soul. I need it today.
Well, do you remember a phone conversation where I had like a complete meltdown?
I think I do.
Do you remember that?
Yes,
Yeah.
I remember
So maybe I get it. Like I sometimes I really do feel like Superwoman, by the way. Like I really do feel like a superhero.
It's the cape you keep in your closet.
I have my kryptonite, right? There are certain things that are my kryptonite. And I am a big fan of, and I am a queen of the meltdown. I just think it shouldn't be in front of like the whole world.
Yeah.
Right?
Sorry for outing you.
So no, that's fine. I own this. I own every part of this, right? And my husband will be the first person to tell you like epic meltdowns where I'm like crying, screaming, cursing, throwing things. Like it takes a while for me to get to the point where I lose it like that. Never in my work situation. It's always, like at the end of the day and I've been frustrated about this or about that. And then before I go into that, incidentally, some of my biggest breakthroughs have been after my biggest breakdowns.
Are you listening?
Right. So don't hold off on the meltdowns for too long, I guess I should say. So yeah, I was very frustrated. I was shoving square pegs in round holes for months, maybe a couple years, on the business side of things. And I was getting into a business relationship that would have been very high profile on a national level, and was starting to realize that I had been lied to. It wasn't what it was, cracked out. It wasn't what it was, cracked up to be. So I was getting very frustrated there. It was taking a lot of my time and energy. And eventually, when it started to take money, I bailed on that. And I'm really glad that I did. At the same time, there was some other work that I was trying to get that was very slow moving, and I was getting ghosted a little, and just not really knowing where I stood was very frustrating.
Because you can't count on that.
You
Am I getting a
can't.
check next month? Am I not? Do I need to move on?
Right,
What do I do?
right. And that's like the chase had just really worn me down. And, on top of that, there was some personal hardships, which we won't go into today.
Yeah, no.
We could do another podcast on that, were very broke me.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like your everyday stuff. It's like the stuff that you're really like, whoa, okay, this is very serious. And there's no way for that to not affect you, which is the times that I don't feel like Wonder Woman. And so I just hit this point where I thought, maybe it's time to call it quits. I've done this for, at that point, it was like almost 8 years, and I wasn't making these things happen. I'd taken some risks, calculated risks that resulted in a lot less money. And you don't notice that money at first because you're in this new thing. And this risk seems to be going in the direction where it's paying off, but then it takes a left, and you're like, holy shit,
Yep.
This might not have been, this risk may not have paid off.
Yep.
And here I am barely able to pay my bills. And so I got to make a right. And like, what does that look like? What does that mean? So, okay, I can go back to personal training and make that money back.
Yeah.
And that would be fine. But that if I did that, then that would have meant I was out of, the athletic space. And then, which is really where I want to be spending the majority of my time is in, that space and, thinking to myself, am I going to be happy if I give this up and go back to this other thing that I kind of stopped doing because it wasn't really like lighting me up anymore.
Yeah.
And then, and then you come to this realization, like, this might not work.
Yeah.
And
that's scary.
It's scary. It's
You've
really,
spent
really scary.
time and effort and energy. The time amount and money amount varies from thing to thing, but that's scary when you have to look down the abyss and say, well, shit,
Yeah.
did I just waste all of this? Or if I keep going, is the payoff right around the corner?
And then if you do decide to shut it down, your entire identity is this thing. So then who am I? And like, sure, you can recreate yourself anytime you want. Like,
Yeah.
if you decided today you wanted to do something completely different with your life, you could do that, right? You would be able to put in the work and find out what you need to know and learn what you need to learn. It's not really about that. It's about, if I'm not Melanie, the strength coach, and Melanie, the trainer, and Melanie who knows all these things about this thing and helps people get better, then what am I? And for me, I envy those people who are happy, like being a stay-at-home mom and like their identity being wrapped up in motherhood or, in being a wife or, in, just being somebody that is working this job until like retirement. But that doesn't make me feel happy. So I tried that and it didn't work for me. And
that's
so,
okay to
yeah.
try different things. What makes one person happy and fulfilled
Absolutely.
is not the same thing that's going to make somebody else
Absolutely.
happy and fulfilled.
Yeah.
So feeling the freedom within yourself to explore your own passions and desires, and having a little bit of support from the people around you to kind of,
Sure.
take a minute and explore some things is
Yeah.
really beneficial, I
Yeah.
think, because life is too short to do something that you don't like doing.
And, that's not the first time that I wanted to quit. The first time I wanted to quit and shut down the whole shop was 3 years prior, right before I started coaching at CJ. And that's right around the time I had met my mentor, who has been a phenomenal guidance for me in this athletic space, but also in, the general population space as well. And, I don't know how our paths ended up crossing. There probably was something bigger in the universe at play there. But they did nonetheless. And, when I started working with him, I was ready to quit. And I was in this mode where I said to myself, and it was like probably like spring, I think. And I said to myself, I'm going to give myself until the end of the year. And if I don't love this again by the end of the year, I'm shutting it down. So I never make these decisions quickly.
Yeah.
And understanding that I might be miserable while I'm making the decision, but I'm never going to make a knee-jerk decision about my business, which is very opposite of who I am, because I like shoot from the hip, like I always know what to say. I never, and it drives people crazy, and I realize that. But so, that was the first time where I really was like, I'm done. Like, this isn't doing anything for me anymore. And then, one thing led to another, and these things, random meetings of people and meeting a coach, for the football team, and like, just kind of like being out there and sort of, I kind of went out there first as this person who was skilled in functional movement and being able to eyeball movement patterns and issues with movement that the normal person wouldn't see, which in my opinion is a gift. It's really not. It's
I
hard
was
to
just
teach
going to
somebody
ask you,
that.
is that a learned skill or
It's
that's
a
a pretty
gift
much
that
a
I've
genetic thing that
perfected.
you
I think
had?
it's a
You've
gift
always
that
had
I've
that.
perfected. Like, I
Okay.
think people can learn it. I just think I see things that other people just don't see, that it's kind of hard, to explain. That being said, right now I'm in the midst of trying to figure out, is this something I can teach people, like an intern and an employee and stuff like that? Other people do it too. I'm not the only one. It's not like it's unique or anything. But, that being said, things sort of shifted and I was feeling really good at my deadline. And so I said, yep, I'm going to keep this going. I'm going to explore this thing. I'm going to take this risk. I'm going to stop doing afternoon and evening clients and I'm going to coach. And I did it, coaching doesn't pay a whole lot in the space that, in the setup as it was, which it was okay with me because it was football and it was a space I never thought I'd find myself in. I never even really considered it. And, but from my first 5 minutes in there, I knew
You knew it.
immediately. I knew immediately, like the hair stood up on my arms and it smelled a little bit. And,
Like feet?
it was like, there's like clanking of weights but it was an energy thing. It was
Yeah.
like this group of people doing these really hard things to achieve this common goal. Right. And it was very family. It felt like a family. But that being said, I still was very like standoffish because I like to read people and get to know like what their energy is like before I figure out how am I going to deal with this person. Because I like to meet people where they are.
Yeah.
So, that shifted and it was great for a couple years, right? And then, okay, I want more. And I don't feel bad about wanting more. So it's like I'm doing this thing, I'm coaching. Now I want to monetize this.
Yeah.
I want to do more of this and I want people to pay me for it. So how do I make that happen? And that's where I was really like in this mode where I was getting like almost there for this great gig and almost there for this other gig. And I was like, am I going to be the queen of almost? Because I'm not interested in that shit.
That doesn't pay.
That is not, I don't like that. And I still feel like that a little bit. But, that's when I really start, when I get dark and when I start thinking like, maybe this isn't going to work, maybe I need to shift back to this, or maybe I just need to walk away altogether. I don't tell everybody that. Like, I don't think the people who don't understand what I go through and what I do on a daily basis and people don't understand the struggle are not your people, that you should discuss those things with. So, of course, I talked to my mentor about it. I had a consulting firm at the time that I thought got it, although it became clear over like the last 4 months that they really don't. And so I've parted ways with them. They were really just a lot of non-actionable, keyword talkers, and I'm not interested in that. But, finding the right people to really go to and say, like, for me to send a message to my mentor and to another person in the business who's world renowned and technically is not my mentor, but because I've done some of his programs, and he's a very approachable person, is one of those people that you can email and he will actually respond, which is unheard of. And, to be sitting there and typing those words, I'm thinking about walking away and meaning it, and, getting actionable, strategic advice. Before you do that, think about this. Or before you do that, do this. What are you good at? What do you know you're good at? Well, I'm good at these things. Okay, well, so you're doing that right now and you're not getting paid, what you want to get paid for it. What are the things that you can do that you don't absolutely hate that can pay the bills, And so sort of like kind of dialing it back and, looking at it that way. And then, by the time I've reached out to people like that, I've already had the meltdown.
Yeah.
So
you can think about it a little bit more
time.
clearly.
Yeah, I won't waste their time with the meltdown. That's usually just for my poor husband and you. But and another friend of mine, I have epic text messaging meltdowns, and she's always great. But
Yeah. I think it's important, though, to have people that understand what you're doing. I mean, I don't understand the ins and outs of your specific business and what you do, but I do understand having a business and looking at the billables and what's coming in and what's going out and being happy with it and then not being happy with it. And okay, now what do I do to try and fix this? So I think that's important. If you're building a business, if you're in that space, whether it's someone you already know or maybe some networking groups, there's all kinds of networking groups that you can join both locally and also nationally. The internet is an amazing thing.
Mm-hmm.
You've said many times that you have really great conversations with people on Twitter. There's Facebook groups aplenty and LinkedIn groups aplenty for people who are just general business owners, general entrepreneurs, and then also specific for specific fields. So, if you're in that place and you're frustrated, you're thinking about giving up, you need tips or tricks. Melanie's mentioned, you've mentioned a mentor several times.
I think everybody should have a mentor.
That is an amazing thing to have, somebody who's a little bit farther along than you, and they can kind of help you sidestep the landmines that maybe you would just plow right through if you didn't have somebody telling you to be concerned about this or keep an eye out for that. So, if you're in that space, definitely get those people around you. And it probably won't be your family. It will probably be people that, are new to you, or maybe you kind of know them through, some previous business. But I think that's really, really important to surround yourself with people who can give you good advice and not be emotionally wrapped up in the advice that they're telling you. They can be objective and business-minded. I think that's essential, for making it in whatever business you're doing.
Yeah, I also think that professionals and business owners need to let go of the idea that you shouldn't have to pay for a mentorship too. I think it's okay if someone has an expertise and they can help a person, that it's okay for them to charge for it. And if you can't afford it, then you'll have to look at, some other options. My mentor, it started out as a program where I paid a monthly fee and had access to this guy who's worked at the very highest level, started at the bottom, went all the way up to the highest level. And the highest level in strength and conditioning, it's very hard to keep your job. And new ownership from teams come in, and you can lose your position through no other reason but that, right? And so he's been all the way up, and now, owns a facility on the East Coast, and stopped his official mentoring program a while ago.
Yeah.
And I remember getting that email, and I was like, no, don't
leave me.
I will pay you 10 times what I'm paying you right now. And I really would, and I'm not lying. I always thought he is not charging enough, because the way he helped me completely change my trajectory. And all I had to do was listen and do everything he told me to do. And I did all of the things, and even the stuff that I was like, I don't want to do that, but I did it anyway. And he was right about every single thing. Like, there's never been anything he's wrong about. So that was such a valuable experience for me. And I sent him a message, and I was like, I can't be reading this right. Are you sure? I'm like, can I just pay you 10 times more? I can't even imagine. I can't do this without you. And, this was a huge compliment, and I'm not trying to brag, but, he was like, first of all, you have a direct line to me whenever you need it. You have literally been the star of this mentoring program. And, for him to say that, because I felt like I was rocking it, right?
Yeah.
But to have somebody else say it, it's like, oh man, that's so cool. I saved the message. It was a voice message, and I saved it, to this day. And that meant a lot to me. And he was like, you don't need me anymore. you don't need me every day
Take the
anymore.
training wheels off.
Yeah, it's time for you. It's time for you to fly. But if you do need something, I'm here. And it's great. So I don't pay him anymore, and I don't abuse, that privilege. But when I really need something, I can message and, he's right there to say, hey, let's schedule a 15-minute phone call, or here's a couple things, and he's been valuable on the business side. But also if I just have a kid with a certain injury and I'm like, ooh, I don't know how to work around this or whatever, I can ask him those simple things and he'll give me this very, specific actions to take. Those are always 100% right as well. And then I get credit for it, which is crazy because it's that wasn't even me. I just did what somebody told me to do. But I think people need to, really be willing, first of all, to find out in your field, whatever it is, who is the most respected, rightfully so, and who knows more than you, and then approaching and asking, will you help me? Will you mentor me? Do you charge for this? And then the other part of that often gets missed is being coachable.
Yeah.
And, so.
What does that mean, being coachable?
Well, that means when you have somebody telling you who knows more than you do that you should do this thing or approach something in this way, and you let your own discomfort with that override that advice, and you fight it and you dig your heels in. No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. That's awkward. That's uncomfortable. That makes me nervous, or blah, blah, blah. You're not coachable, right? And it's the same, if I have an athlete and, his college recruit says, yeah, this kid looks great, but we need him to be 20 pounds heavier before we can recruit him and give him money to come to our school. Then that kid comes to me, Coach Mel, they said I need to put on 20 pounds and I have, 6 months to do it. And I say, okay, then I need you to show up to every lift. I need this much out of you effort-wise. I need you to eat more food, and I need you to sleep better, and I need you to, focus on these things. And then they don't do it. You're not coachable.
Yeah.
Right? Being coachable means you're doing the things that you really don't want to do in order to achieve a specific goal. And
putting your trust in someone who's a little bit farther along or knows a little bit more to say, okay, they're seeing some things that I don't see, so I should trust them to try these things that are a little weird to me.
Yeah, and that's why they're farther along than you are, right? I mean, they're there, for a reason. I'm sure there are people out there who don't deserve the high level, job that they have, but we pretty much know in our professions who those people are, and we know who the legit people are. And this is the age where you literally can send a Facebook message if you can't find someone's email, or a Twitter DM, or an Instagram DM, or LinkedIn, or, whatever. Because it is hard to find people's email addresses these days, I find. But, there's nothing, you're not going to lose anything by just trying and, reaching out. And I find so often people want to help other people. When a strength coach or trainer reaches out to me and asks me questions about, I don't understand this, or I'm having trouble with that. I know you're really busy, but can you explain this to me, or can you help me? And it's everybody's busy, right? I make myself busy, but those are, I will always stop, or I will say, I can't answer this right now. And it's possible that I'm going to forget to get back to you. So if you haven't heard from me by Tuesday, can you send me a message again and remind me? Which I will do that often, because I never want to be the person that ghosts another person. I don't like that. And I don't want to make anybody feel that way. But, finding the people who know what you need to know, seeking them out, getting their guidance, or a program's guidance, or, whatever, and then executing that in the way that it's been laid out for you, because you're not ever going to know if that's going to work if you don't try it. And it seems so cliched, but no one wants to do that.
Yeah.
You know, no one wants to get uncomfortable.
I mean, reaching those high levels takes work, you know? I mean, you kind of alluded to it a second ago. People don't just fall out of bed and fall into this amazing position with lots of money and lots of people thinking they're cool. It takes a lot of work for usually a lot of years. And some of these people have been working their whole lifetimes, 20, 30, 40 years to reach the level that they're at. So, if you're looking at them and you're like, wow, I want to be like that, you have to be prepared to listen, and try the things they're saying. And then you have to be willing to put in the work.
Right.
Maybe it means you don't take a vacation this year because you've got a whole bunch of things you have to do for the business, or you're going to take your vacation money and pour it into something that would really help your business. I am not saying never take a vacation. You need time to get away.
Sure.
And, even if it's just a walk in the woods to kind of clear your mind and de-stress, I think that's really important as business owners and just crazy busy people today anyway. But, you have to be willing to put in the work. If you think you're going to work 20 hours a week and suddenly be great in 6 months, I hate to have to tell you this, but that is not going to happen. It's not. And if it does, it's because someone behind you, like family member or whatever, has gifted you this beautiful position. And then we're going to go back to the respect that we talked about at the beginning. People will not respect you. They'll be like, oh, well, so-and-so gave them the position. And, that's the end of it. So if you want respect, if you want those, those goals at the end and those achievements, you just have to get up every day and you have to work. Rain or shine, happy or sad, you got to do it.
Yeah. And, this is going to make me very unpopular, but anybody that wants to own a business of any kind needs to understand that everything you do is going to be choice.
Yes.
Like you choose to show up or you choose to not show up. And over the holidays, I took a couple weeks off and it was so awesome. I was like drinking coffee on my couch literally until noon every day. And I was like, this is so amazing. The first week was so amazing. And then second week, I'm like, this is kind of boring. I'm ready to get back to work. But those times are very necessary. And our brains are very, they're always on overdrive. If you own any kind of business, you're constantly thinking about that business. So you could be at lunch flipping through Facebook, but in the back of your mind, there's something about your work that is on your mind. And we don't get to like really get away from it. And sometimes even when we're sleeping, we're dreaming about, work scenarios. So
I think that's a sign that you really love what you do.
Yeah.
I think if you hated it, you'd probably be thinking about like fishing or something else.
Totally.
But when you really love what you do and you found that passion, my brain never turns off. My best ideas come to me when I'm driving. When I'm in the shower, because I clear my mind of all the other junk, and then that one brilliant idea comes through from the bottom of the pile, and I'm like, oh my God! And then that's the thing. That's the thing that we do. And I tell the client, hey, so I was thinking about this, or, come up with a mock-up. And every single time when I'm in a block, that's what I do. So balancing those things is very important as well.
Yeah, it definitely is. But I just don't believe that there really is a such thing for a business owner as work-life balance. And I used to try really hard to have work-life balance. And there was a year, 4 years ago, I think, where I was at that point where I was a little frustrated with the work. And so I told my husband, I said, I want to travel so much this year. I want to travel so much that I get tired of traveling. And I didn't get tired of traveling. I just wanted to travel more and more and more. And we were literally, one of us or both of us was somewhere like every other month that year. And that was a really awesome year, by the way. Also, didn't make very much money that year. and probably put all of that I did make back into
plane
travel.
tickets?
Yeah. But that was a good, that was the extreme in the other direction, right? And my husband and I were just talking about this the other day because he is a business owner also. He owns an insurance agency, and obviously our jobs are very, very different. But he has to be the one that keeps that place going. It's his name on the business, and he has employees. But at the end of the day, everything is still, his responsibility. And, I told him the other day, I said, I really let go of this notion that I could achieve work-life balance and became okay with it.
Yeah.
And the way that I become okay with it is that I'm in charge of, and only of me, really. I have one part-time employee and one intern right now, as a result of growth and hoping, to have more. But right now it's like I'm making the decisions, I'm calling all the shots, and I'm holding my own feet to the fire and making sure that I'm showing up and knowing what I'm supposed to know and being good at what I do. And I said, but the day I realized that this job is going to be until I open my eyes, from the time I open my eyes to the time I close my eyes every day, because sometimes people say, well, how many hours a day do you work? I'm like,
All
well, I'm
of
up at
them.
5 and I begin with coffee, and then that's when I do most of my social media.
Yep.
And they're like, well, that's not work. Well, actually it is.
It
I
is.
had to shoot a video. I had to edit it. I had to do a voiceover, and then I had to post it, and then I had to write written content, educational content. That is work. I don't get paid for it,
Yeah.
but it's a part of my work.
It's part of your brand.
It's a part of my marketing and part of my brand. And so I do that stuff in the morning. I have a training app, so I get in there in the morning and I answer messages and I interact with my clients. It's interactive. I do that in the morning because my brain is fresh, and I write programs in the morning. So these things happen before my daughter even gets driven to school, and take her to school, have a training session for either client or I train myself. And then by that time, it's time to hop in the shower, eat lunch, do some more desk work before I have to go pick my daughter up from school, and then go over to CJ, where I spend 3 to 4 hours every day coaching. So the way I've figured out how to achieve work-life balance is I'm very lucky, and my daughter goes with me.
Yeah.
And she loves it. I'm not like dragging her there. And so that's how I have found I'm working, yes, but I'm spending this time with my daughter.
Yep.
She's very athletic. She's more athletic than I ever would have hoped to have been. And so I know that as an athlete, she's being developed, and she just thinks she's playing, which is amazing. And I know that she's developing these habits that will help her, throughout the rest of her life. And now as a 10-year-old, she's saying, I want to learn how to be a coach. And so I'm thinking, like, now there's this thing that, like, I'm building a legacy. I could potentially build something that's so great that someday she could take over. Now, what you were saying before about people just kind of slipping into roles that they maybe don't deserve, she says, yeah, because by the time I could take it over, you'll have done all the hard stuff. So that works for me. And she's not
She's
wrong.
also 10.
She's not wrong about that. I will have done all the hard stuff. But what she doesn't know is, in order to be worthy of taking over something that I birthed,
Yes.
she will have to do certain things. There will have to be a certain amount of education. It probably won't be the formal education that you would think it would be.
Yeah.
She'll have to be an intern. She'll have to work for free.
Yeah.
There will be things that she will have to do if she's still interested in that, down the road. But if nothing else, she's with me, and I don't have to put her in daycare. And, she has all these kids now that are like big brothers and big sisters to her. And so that's been, a really beautiful thing. That being said, if I wasn't able to take her with me, I have to think really hard, like, would I still do this?
Yeah.
Would I do it as much? Like, I feel like I would. I just wouldn't be as happy.
Yeah.
because I just don't want her to have to go to a daycare if
Well, it's
she
a
doesn't want
marriage
to.
of both of your worlds.
Right,
They
exactly.
both get to exist happily
They
in the
do.
same
Yeah,
space and time.
and I'm very lucky, for that. Now, my husband tries to take her to work, and she's a huge distraction, and he's like, this isn't working. Like, I'll get texts like, this is not working. She's driving me crazy. She's like flying paper airplanes through the air. And I was like, take her home. She can be at home now at age 10 for a couple hours, right? So I'm like, I don't know what to tell you about that. I don't have that problem because when I'm at work with her, it's movement and yelling and coaching and, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like a lot of things
I'm
going
not
on
sure
at
that
once.
the insurance office
Not
is
for
as
her.
sexy as the football training facility.
No, but my husband's like, we really need to talk to her about her career path when she gets older because she can make a heck of a lot more money as an insurance agency owner. And I'm like, yeah, but it's just not as cool.
I mean,
It's not.
your poor husband.
Sorry, babe. Yeah, it's just not. But who knows? Maybe she'll do both, or maybe she'll do something completely different. You never know. Either way, work-life balance, for me, that's how it exists. And the day I became okay with working more than I play, freed up a lot of mental space for me. And I do love what I do. I'm like, I really love it. And I don't want to stop doing it. But, that being said, it's like, I'm going to hit another wall. It's inevitable. I'm going to hit another time where I say, fuck this. I'm not doing this shit anymore. And I'm out of here and F this and F that and screw this and da-da-da-da, and this person is ghosting me and this person isn't being honest with me and, da-da-da-da-da. And then we'll go through the same process over again. I'll reach out to the people that I reach out to. And at the end of the day, if I walk away, it will be because it is the right thing to do.
Yeah. Joe. Well, that's good. Hopefully you have found some little kernel of something, a good takeaway in our chat today. You will come across hard times, you will hit a wall, but if you keep going, if you have some people in your corner to help you, it can help you make some really great decisions and keep going, which I think both of us will agree to keep going when the times get rough. So, Mel, if people would like to connect with you on Twitter or on Facebook, how would they do that?
Facebook is Melanie Red Performance Training, or you can just find my personal page, Melanie Red. Instagram is Melanie Red 1. And Twitter is, I think, Coach_Mel_Red, I think. Or you could just type Melanie Red into the search in there. So
Cool.
Yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Well, thank you for chatting
Thanks
with
for
me
having
today.
me. I appreciate it. It was fun.
Awesome.